normalcy in their life and are improving each week and each month. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we do at Be Connected. I'm obligated to just take a quick minute, and I'll buzz through the boring part here. But Be Connected is a social media management company. We're located in downtown Appleton, and we also have a satellite office in Milwaukee, but we ultimately serve a wide variety of Wisconsin and throughout clients throughout the Midwest. So one of the things I like to share is that as a marketing company, we're the vehicle that drives our client's voice. And we do that through social channels, through some email marketing, advertising. And a lot of what you see when we work with clients is video and photography. Those are the things that really get people to stop scrolling. But ultimately, social media can mean a lot of different things to different people. So what I like to say, if it's social media, we do it. So now on to some of the interesting stuff. So I put a lot of time and research into industry data that talks about what's happened over the last couple of months with social media. And then I also have a slide dedicated later on that talks about some of the data that we found from our clients right here in Northeast Wisconsin. So I found some things that I thought were really interesting that I wanted to share. And one of them is that since social distancing has been in place, messaging apps and social platforms saw 20 to 50% increase in usage from the previous month. So before all this quarantine stuff, it's kind of not surprising to see and hear that there's been up to 50% more usage. Obviously, if people are at home, they're probably on their phone more, maybe working a lot less. We know a lot of people have unfortunately been laid off. So there's no surprise to see that messaging apps have seen a tremendous increase. Facebook particularly reported messaging increase more than 50% just in the month of March alone. We look at other platforms. I know I tend to talk a lot about Facebook and Instagram and even LinkedIn to a certain degree. And this is more of a year over data. And this recent data I couldn't find, but TikTok has seen a 96% increase year over year in app downloads. I think what you'll find is that TikTok is becoming and will continue to become the next Snapchat, the next legitimate platform. It tends to be a little bit younger, but we are seeing more adults and even grandparents migrate to the platform so that they can keep up with their kids, which is no different than what happened to Facebook a decade plus ago, what happened to Instagram after that, and Snapchat, and so on and so forth. When we talk about globally, 45% of global consumers are spending more time on messaging services. So we know that more people are spending time on their phone, they're spending more time on social, and particularly they're connecting with people. So what that tells me is that consumers are trying to connect with businesses, and the people are looking for more one-to-one human interaction. They have more downtime, they're reaching out to people. So what we talk to businesses about is if that's true, if consumers really want to connect with businesses, you have to make yourself available. And we're going to talk a little bit more later on about how you can do that particularly. And we move into sales, which is something that a lot of B2C and some B2B businesses want to know about. And particularly in China, Nike saw online sales grow by 30% in the last 2 weeks. Now that data is a little bit old already, but that tells me that if sales and online sales were growing in China before this was lifted here, that's good news for us locally. And on the upcoming slides, we're going to talk a little bit more about e-commerce sales, which have been up, not surprisingly. Okay, so I get a lot of questions on when's the best time to do this? When's the best time to do that? Well, real fresh data that's come out in the last week says that the best time to post on Facebook traditionally had been 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. So interestingly enough, that's changed slightly. It is now Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Now there's a caveat there because not every page has the same audience. Not every audience is in the same geographic area or country. So naturally, if you're gonna post on those days and you're gonna try that out, don't expect to see 25, 35% more engagement. While that is possible, I always like to tell people tempered expectations. But if this is data that came from Sprout Social, which is an industry leader. So I would certainly believe that that's going to help if you try and experiment with that. But you can already see what some of the best times to post are on your Facebook Insights tab. Another interesting one as it relates to engagement is on a per post level, brands saw 7.3 more engagements per post per day. So again, more people are using social media, more people are on it. And I think this is going to be exceptionally true if you're posting things that have a positive narrative to them. So if you're talking about things that are positive, uplifting, inspirational, maybe even something related to Memorial Day, or giving back, or helping the community, or donating, people tend to like that type of stuff. But if we're posting things that are negative, I think what you'll find is that that number is not going to hold true. According to another global leader, which is Global Web Index, 50% of global consumers say they approve of brands running normal advertising. That's kind of interesting to me because if 50% of people are okay with the standard, let's just run our ads and let's just do business the way we normally do, the other 50% of people don't agree with that. They think potentially it's insensitive or they should be changing and pivoting. And so a lot of our presentation is kind of geared toward that. In these are changing times. We are evolving. Things are different now. And what can you do to make your advertising adapt to this new normal, this post-COVID-19 world? Another one that, again, not surprised because I fall into this category, 1 in 2 people are doing more online shopping. And specific data says up to 20% more on a monthly basis. And for those of us who still are employed and haven't been extremely negatively impacted by this type of stuff, online shopping is up. And so if you are a restaurant or a local business that does any kind of online reservations, online sales, that is something we will certainly want to look to exploit and promote as much as possible. Finally, on this slide, we have 56% of marketers use social data to understand their audience, and less than half actually use it to measure ROI or competitive insights. And so with data, that's an interesting conversation. There's so much of it available on your Facebook Insights tab and any social media platform. If you use tools like Hootsuite or Sprout Social, which are social media management tools that allow you to post and basically manage all of your social media pages from one place. It's nice to have the data, but unless you're going to do anything with it, it's hard to measure ROI. So what I tell people is that measure specific data that's important to you. And particularly now in these times, we're seeing people pivot more and go more and more into the digital and the social media world. And so it's important to use that data to measure. Okay, so we talked about some data. One of the things in this whole recipe and helping businesses understand what they should do is also what they shouldn't do. Now, let's pretend that we're still kind of in this quarantine, because many of us are, although it's been officially lifted. With things not being open, we're still living in a quarantine world in most cases. So until we get out of this, we move past the pandemic, we're still advising businesses on what to do. And there's a couple things, and while they seem relatively elementary, the big thing is not to panic, is proceed with optimism and try to find the silver lining, because people do not engage with content that is negative. And so being pessimistic, political, or panicking, or focusing too much on the negative is not a good thing. Now, on the flip side of that, if you have what I call a quarantine story to share that talks about how you've had to lay off people, how you've had to shut down, how you've been financially impacted in a way that it's going to be hard to recover from, you can tell that story, and you should, but put a positive spin on it. Tell people that you're looking for their business, you're looking for their support. Here's what you're doing to get through this with your team, what you're doing to get out of it, and put a positive spin on it. Find that silver lining, because people will support you if they know you're struggling. And we see a lot of people here locally supporting small businesses, locally owned restaurants, and so on and so forth. A couple of other things that come to mind that I see a lot of people do or did in the beginning, the first month or two, was stop posting. And essentially on social media, if you stop posting, you become somewhat invisible. And you certainly don't want that, because what happens is if you don't post for 3 weeks or 4 weeks, the red flag comes up, and this is a common question people have is, are they still in business? And you certainly don't want that right now. And so just communicate, tell people we are shut down, or we're shut down because we're taking precautions to keep people safe, but we're still doing delivery of this, or we're still doing online sales of that. And those things are important. So keep people updated. Next is don't hard sell. For anyone who's in business development or sales like me, the typical pattern is sell, 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 and in some cases hard sell, cold call. This is a time where people are usually very busy, particularly marketers and business leaders and business owners. And so nobody really has time, nor does anybody really want a hard sale, which also means that promotions are not likely to fix a lack of sales. So 10% off, 20% off. In a lot of cases, people would rather go to a restaurant that they know is struggling and help them out rather than saying, I'm going to choose them because I have a 10% off coupon. And so it's important to make sure we're communicating properly and we have a plan. And that's what we're going to dive into next. Okay, so we talk about what to do. There's so many things you can do. And a couple of things is take a deep breath. If you're getting back into social or you're getting back into opening, there's a couple of things to keep in mind. And one is just be optimistic. Like I said, find that silver lining and talk about all the good things that are on the horizon. If you can, help others selflessly. So there's an example here on the right of a Hava salon. And early on in the quarantine, they were sharing something about how to take care of your nails. And they have a pretty solid audience that follows them, that comes in. And if you know places that do hair, usually you have one and you go to them and that's your place and you love them. And so they were taking care of their people. They were teaching, they were educating, trying to add value to their followers' news feeds. And you could do that in a number of ways. And I have some ideas coming up I can show you. Again, if you're kind of new to social media and you're diving back in and you want this post-quarantine world to be really successful for your digital marketing, you need to create a plan. And I'm going to show you how to do that upcoming shortly. It's also a great time to update your website. This is something where people tend not to do it very frequently because it can be very time consuming. It can also be beyond their capabilities. And so what better time now that when you have this spare time to go through and update the copy, take old products off the website, update hours of operation, pricing, et cetera, et cetera. It's also a great time to try something new. Get creative, shoot a video like this gal did here from a Hava salon. Don't be afraid to get in front of the camera. It doesn't have to be professional. You just need some good lighting and kind of a decent sound environment to be able to create a video, because people connect with people. They don't necessarily connect with brands. And so you can see in this case, your favorite chef from a restaurant or your favorite hairstylist from the salon, those things are helpful. People want to connect with others, particularly in times of a quarantine. Retooling your marketing, email marketing, which we're going to talk about shortly, connecting with clients, which again, more ideas upcoming shortly. There's so many things you can do that maybe you wouldn't have thought of pre-COVID-19. Okay, so let's talk about your digital marketing mix. We're going to switch gears here. There are so many things that fall into digital marketing. We don't have time to talk about all of them, unfortunately. We're going to go pretty deep into social, and we're going to briefly cover some other things, which is website, SEO, email marketing, and then other things related to social. So when it comes to a website, we talked about the importance of keeping things updated. There's value in that from an SEO, which is search engine optimization. So from that standpoint, that's Google's algorithm to determine how and why they index your website where they do. So if someone's searching for a local credit union, how you show up, number one, number two, or maybe on page 3, all has to do with the quality of your website. And so what do they look for? They're looking for things that are updated regularly. They're looking to make sure there's no broken links. You have good website speed. It's optimized for mobile, meaning it looks good on a mobile screen. Make sure that the contact forms and things like that are up to date and are functioning properly. And so things like blogging, there are literally hundreds of criteria and factors that go into SEO. And while I'm not the foremost expert on that, it is something that it's very important to update your website, because a lot of times that is your first impression, not only to prospective clients, but also to maybe first time, second time buyers. And so people are looking for something new, and they do visit your website regularly, and it should be updated. It's very important. Moving into email marketing, it's another one that while it's very competitive and there's more companies now than ever sending email, open rates are declining, because in this COVID-19 world, that's how many other ways do we have to connect with our customers, whether we're in B2B or B2C? And so inboxes are filling up, but it's still a great opportunity to connect with folks who may not be on social media or may not be regular users of any of those platforms you're on. So we're going to talk a little bit about auditing your social media presence, managing your social, and then we're going to wrap it up with some social media advertising. And Mickey, if there's anything else that comes up with questions along the way, feel free to let me know, and I'm happy to answer them as we go. Okay, email marketing. I found this slide, this picture, really, really humorous. And early on, I'm sure your inbox was no different than mine, where you were getting emails every day from businesses you hadn't heard from in 5 years or 10 years that you bought from. And this woman's telling her husband, some brand we apparently gave our email address to 3 or 4 years ago, wants us to know that they're here for us in this difficult time. I kind of roll my eyes and think, yeah, great. Okay. I don't need to know your COVID-19 policies or what you guys are doing. And it shouldn't take COVID-19 or any kind of pandemic for you to reach out and want to connect with your customers, particularly those that haven't heard from you in 5 years. If they care about you, they'll connect with you once a quarter, once a month, whatever it might be. And that's the whole point with this, is that it shouldn't take a pandemic or a crisis for you to connect with your customers. Email marketing is a great tool. It's in some cases free to very inexpensive. And so if you have that opportunity to connect with people and to build that email list, it's something you should be leveraging on a regular basis, not just in times of a pandemic. So let's talk about email marketing specifically. There is, again, so much more you can do. So let's say, for example, you are a credit union. I mentioned this example before. You have businesses who are your clients. You have consumers, families who are your clients. And you may have youth, even savings accounts. You have all kinds of different things that you offer. You can make lists. You can make lists of young professionals. You can make lists of families. You can make lists of businesses who are your clients. So we call that email list segmenting. So you may have an email list or email blast that you want to send out once monthly, but the people who are your consumers may not find the stuff for businesses very interesting. So why not craft an email specifically for your business clients and have another one crafted specifically for your families that talks about savings for kids, other types of educational opportunities that they have at the bank, internships, things like that. And so if you think about it, you can break down these lists and you can send more detailed, specific communication that might be more interesting, rather than sending an email blast to somebody that maybe one of the 3 things in the email is relevant to them. And so we call that email segmenting. It does take some time to set up, but ultimately can make your email marketing far more effective. Also, we talk about templates. A lot of times I subscribe to emails from local businesses and it's been the same template for 5 years, which means it's time for an update. And so what better time now than when you have a little extra spare time to not only update that template, make sure it's functioning, make sure it looks good, and maybe even consider a different format, a different frequency, a different schedule. Because that's what's important as email marketing is you don't just want to send these when you need sales or during times of a pandemic. You want to be consistent, and that is really key. So the next question with email marketing is, well, what do I communicate? What do I share? And it's a great time to be empathetic because we know a lot of people have been impacted by this. While maybe you haven't, I'm sure you have some neighbors, some colleagues, or even friends that have seen the downside of COVID-19. Also, educating and informing. It doesn't take more than 5 or 10 minutes to create a video on your cell phone and update people, educate them. add some value to their inbox so that they're more willing and more interested in opening your emails in the future. Because if all it is filled with sales, they're not likely to continue to open those emails. Share new developments, new offerings. If you're a restaurant, you have a new menu, or maybe you're doing a entree of the week, drink specials, takeout, to go. Update people on what your policies are. All businesses also can tell their quarantine story. We all have one. Some are more interesting than others, but certainly if you're someone like me and you have kids running in and interrupting your Zoom calls every other hour, you can talk about some of the challenges with that too. And that's okay. We also use with clients emails to run social campaigns. So if you have 10,000 email subscribers, we can import those into Facebook. And if Facebook says, well, 9,000 of these are actually Facebook users, we can run an ad campaign toward those 9,000 people and say, hey, come like our Facebook page, come like our Instagram page. And when you open up the Pandora's box to Facebook ads, there's just so much you can do there. And then finally, regardless of what business you are, you should definitely be updating people maybe a couple times a month on what you're doing to keep people safe. Are you open? Are you not open? Do you have certain rules and parameters in place for people who are going to enter your place of business? And so ultimately, people want to know. Some people take this very seriously. Some people take it somewhat seriously. But either way, people would rather know that you have what the policies and procedures are that you have in place before they go there. Because you don't want it to be like Costco where you don't have a mask, you can't come in. Okay, we dove into SEO, so we're not going to talk about this a whole lot, but ultimately, what is it? And essentially, it's the process of increasing the quality and quantity of website traffic by increasing the visibility of a website, users to a search engine. So they look at all those things I mentioned and beyond. And we're not going to go very deep into this for lack of time, but it's something that if you have a web developer for your business, you should touch base with them and make sure that things are updated, because a simple overview and update of your website could certainly help take you from page 4 to page 2. It's not likely to take you from page 5 to the top of page 1, but it's the consistent ongoing updating of your website that's going to continue to move you up the ranks with Google, whatever type of search engine you may use outside of that. Okay, now we're going to dive into social media, my favorite part, which is strategy. When I'm in person and I'm developing or I'm doing any of these workshops, I usually ask people to raise their hand. And I'll ask, who has a social media strategy? And if there's 50 people in the room, I'd be guessing maybe 10 people raise their hand at best. And so that's okay. If you don't have one, it's a good time to create one. And a simple one-page document can suffice. But there's a lot of things that go into that strategy. And even if you do have one, it's a great time to pivot that strategy. So the question I have for you is ask yourself, does your plan still make sense? A lot of businesses will look different coming out of this, whether it be 1 month from now or 6 months from now. And so given the economic climate, does your strategy make sense? Is it insensitive? What can you keep? What could be postponed? What could be removed? And so again, think about it. It's unlikely that your strategy will stay the exact same. And that's okay. It maybe your frequency is going to increase because your engagement is increasing. Maybe your advertising budget's going up because you're pulling funds from different traditional marketing platforms. So a lot of things to consider when putting together a strategy. And I'm going to show you what one looks like here in a couple of slides. But before we create a strategy, we really need to audit our current social media presence. So how do you create a plan if you really don't know how well your social media is performing? So the questions I have for you here are, does your bandwidth match your activity? Meaning, if you want to post 5 times a day or 5 times a week rather, do you have 5 hours a week to be able to manage 5 different platforms and post that frequently? Are your profiles optimized? Are you active and consistent? Meaning, again, are you going through peaks and valleys where you're taking a week or 10 days off? Or are you consistently posting 3 to 5 times a week? Because we'd certainly rather have the consistency over the quantity. Is your strategy really driving your social media, or is it just a document that you have saved somewhere on your computer that you update once a year? And so again, you want to make sure that the strategy drives the social, drives the content calendar. And then are you responding to questions and comments? Because if you're not, you will not grow your page. You will not see page growth. You'll not see engagement. But if you can consistently respond to questions and comments, and you engage swiftly in a timely fashion, you will see that your community will continue to grow and flourish. And that is how you build brand ambassadors. Original content is another one. If you're posting a lot of third-party content, which are links from other sites like Forbes and Inc.com or other things from the news that might be relevant to your business, those are things people have probably already seen before. It's not original created content, and it's not likely to perform very well. So if you're taking photos and you have people on your team you're doing video interviews with, that is original content, and that is going to stop the scroll on social. Also, look at your competition. I don't like to encourage people to look over their shoulder per se, but it doesn't hurt to look at competitors because it'll give you a pretty good idea of how good, or in some cases, maybe how bad your social media might be. And you'll know whether or not you have to up the ante with your social media game. And then finally, does your company have an ads budget? You're going to need to have some kind of advertising budget because that is how you're going to get your content in front of new eyeballs. Okay, so that's a self-audit, things that you can do just by scrolling up and down your page. We call that a scroll test. When you really want to dive into the analytics, you can go into your Facebook Insights tab, and this is a snapshot at your audience. So I have a business you'll learn about later on, and I thought it was 50-50 male-female. I later learned that it was almost 80% female was my Facebook following. And so I had to tailor the content of my posts to more of a female audience, which is hard as a guy because I'm a man, not a woman. And so it's important to look at this because you should know the age range of your audience, the demographics, the gender, so that you can tailor content. Because if you're a man talking to a man and your audience is female, your content's not likely to resonate very well. And so I encourage all businesses to do this at least once a quarter, because as your page grows, your audience changes. So things could look a little bit different 2 years from now than they look right now. And it's something that businesses oftentimes say, yes, we're a little bit more female than male. They look at their page and it's actually the opposite. So again, it is important to keep that in mind and keep tabs on that. Also on your Insights tab, you can get a look at all these things from page likes to page views. You can get this information over a period of time. And you can also calculate your engagement rate. And don't be surprised if it's low. Most pages are, because Facebook's becoming more of a pay-to-play game. They certainly want you to advertise. But ultimately, just use this data to look for trends. Identify what's working, what's not, and then take that data to make some improvements with your strategy. And that should help you churn out new and improved content for your page. Okay, so when we talk about putting together the strategy, let's talk about some goals, or KPIs, key performance indicators. They should be things that are measurable. So if you want to increase the number of incoming job applicants, if you're a manufacturer and you're going to be ramping up employment here in the post-COVID-19 world, have some that are measurable. And we can certainly track the number of people that are filling out applications or coming to a job application landing page from Facebook or from LinkedIn or from wherever. Also, whether it be leads to a landing page or hits to a landing page, website traffic, there's a lot of things we can track, but you need to be able to have at least a couple of goals, and we're going to put those into this. This is something I created that I'm certainly happy to give anybody who's on the call, and I'm also happy to share this slide deck with everybody. But ultimately, this is your North Star. This is what helps guide you on a daily or weekly basis. So we start out with a mission statement, which is very simple, which could be something like, we at ABC Business plan to use Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn to post 3 to 5 times a week. Our company voice is going to be entertaining, fun, and informative. And then you put the goals in 1, 2, 3. If you're new to this, I don't recommend having more than 3 goals because that can feel very overwhelming. And then make sure you include things like how much money you're going to spend on ads on a monthly basis, posting frequency, platforms used, and the other things that might be in there you can put under notes. But ultimately, if you don't have this roadmap or this strategy, how do you hold yourself accountable? How do you know how well you did in comparison to the prior year, or just in comparison to what you said you were going to do? And so anyone who's going to be successful on social media needs some kind of roadmap or blueprint to be able to reach success. And if you don't do the audit before this, you're going to have a really hard time trying to quantify what some good goals and objectives are going to be for your strategy. Okay, now we're going to jump into some ideas and some things that you can start doing right away with your social media. So the question I get from a lot of businesses now in the last week is, okay, we're opening up. What do we do? Where do we start? How is this going to impact our social? We talked a little bit about the data in the beginning about the shift with consumers and businesses. So I'm going to share with you some ideas and suggestions that you can implement. And one of them is all businesses want to sell. If you're a nonprofit, you want to get money from donors. If you're a manufacturer, you want to do business with more companies to buy your widget or your product. If you're a B2C business like a restaurant or a salon, you want more people coming in to take advantage and buy your food or take advantage of your service. And so the first thing we think of is we need to sell. We need to have a promotion. Well, on social media, and particularly during this pandemic, selling hard selling is not likely to be very effective. So we talk about, and we have always talked about, selling by indirectly selling. So what does that even mean? Well, first of all, that means start by focusing on your brand first. So build a brand and stop selling. So while I often say people connect with people, not with businesses, we build brands by being personal. And so it all starts with leveraging creative and original content, which might mean you getting in front of the camera, being vulnerable, telling your quarantine story, featuring employees. It could be customer testimonials. It could be testimonials from people who work at your place of employment, especially if you're looking at running campaigns for hiring here. Producing thought leadership content is great. If you're someone from a financial institution, a bank, someone in the legal space or healthcare, people have lots of questions about that stuff. And what better way for a business to produce content that educates people? It could be a weekly video. It could be a monthly podcast. It could be just informative, like Tip Tuesday, where you share just small bites of information on your Facebook page and your Instagram page. And ultimately, when you produce those types of content, you're gonna really build community. Because if you're continually adding value to someone's newsfeed, they're gonna follow your page. They're gonna look forward to seeing your content, which means they're gonna start to like it and share it and comment. And they're gonna engage with you, which is now you're building brand. You're also building community. And so if your focus and your objective is just adding value to their newsfeed, you will see these things grow. And as a byproduct, people will say, wow, that credit union is so knowledgeable and they know all about what's going on with this PPP stuff. They've been really able to help me. I'm actually going to move all my money in my accounts to ABC Credit Union. And the same is true with marketing companies. We have a monthly podcast called The Sponge Show. We're unfortunately not doing it now due to the pandemic, but it is a way to showcase our thought leadership because we want people to know that we're very passionate and highly experienced when it comes to social media. Other things that can be very effective and help are highlighting your client's voice. Nothing sells your business better than a testimonial or multiple testimonials from clients. So instead of you selling the client, which we'd all expect you to say, we have the best restaurant, we have the best salon, we have the best credit union, whatever it might be, if you have 1 or 2 clients a month do a video testimonial or a written testimonial, that shows other customers, wow, their clients really love them. That's more powerful and more believable than anything else you can do from a marketing standpoint. And then a couple other things we can sprinkle on the cake here are spending money on ads, something that I'll continue to underscore in upcoming slides, and then celebrating small victories. It's something we practice at Be Connected quite a bit, particularly in challenging times like this. It's always great to find the silver lining and talk about some of the little things that are working for you. And a lot of small victories are better than one big victory. So that's our little recipe on selling by indirectly selling. So let's talk about local businesses here in Northeast Wisconsin and what's working for them. So here's Katsuya of Japan. They have 3 restaurants from the Fox Cities to Green Bay. And when all of this started, they put a post out and it said, hey, to all of our valued customers, here's what we're doing. We are shut down. We've decided to close our doors. And they go in to talk about what happened. A lot of businesses chose to do nothing. They just chose to be invisible and not put their message out there. And there are a lot of people who, in this case, love sushi, love hibachi. And if they're looking to order or come in, how do you have to communicate that? Otherwise, you could lose them to a competitor. Now, again, they might be shut down, but they didn't stop posting. So they said, what else can we do? We've got a huge library of content. Let's do a throwback Thursday to when we didn't know what social distancing even was. So they're encouraging people to stay strong, get through this together, and they're embracing the safer at home, which is obviously a great thing. We want people to be safe, want them to stay home and social distance. And so you got to get creative. These are probably not things we would have thought of doing or maybe doing a lot of, but now we're seeing more and more businesses who are staying active, even if they're closed, by doing stuff like this. We move into the healthcare industry. Women's Care of Wisconsin, also impacted. So because after a while there, they weren't able to do a lot of their procedures and annual exams, they were communicating with their followers and their clients via video and via social. So while it may seem like, do people really want to see me on video? I mean, what am I going to say? What do I talk about? We're all kind of quarantined. Well, the post on the far left was a short video that they did. One of the nurses or doctors there, she said, when the sun shines, we all shine. We miss you. So it's a little message, just, hey, how are you? Here's what's going on here. Just an update, just to say hi, just to see a face, and hopefully a smiling face. The middle post, they talked about changes that are made to upcoming exams and surgeries. So again, keep people posted, keep people updated on what's changing within your business. Whether you're in healthcare or not, it's still good to keep people in the loop. And on the far right, we have PT, physical therapy. And to my knowledge, all physical therapy was shut down during the quarantine. And so there were a lot of people looking for chiropractic care, for physical therapy, massages, etc. And so what do? If you can't see them, you bring your service to them via video. So by adding value to someone's newsfeed, hopefully they can do some of these things at home to relieve some of the pain and hopefully get themselves back to or closer to where they want to be with their physical health. And as you'll notice, some of those videos are not the most professional, but nobody expects that. In fact, I would even argue that right now, when we talk about the genuine, being organic with our content, it performs even better because it's just natural. One of the things we did at Be Connected was we recently did these client roundtables. So purpose of this slide is really to embrace digital meetings with clients. And so a lot of us really default to communication via text, phone, and email. But if we can't get to our clients, we can't see them, that can be challenging. And we've always preached at Be Connected, trying to have one-to-one in-person communication. And so instead of continuing to call and to email, we are really pushing hard to get FaceTime on Zoom or on Google Drive. And so one of the things we did was we brought together groups of clients and we asked some questions. We wanted to know what's happening in your world. We work with a lot of different industries. And so we asked some questions and we did some surveys, and we wanted to basically take that data and say, how can we help you? What has been some recent successes in your business, in your industry? What are some challenges you've had? And let's create some open dialogue so that we can all help each other here. And so I think a great opportunity for other businesses to do the same. And oh, by the way, these Zoom meetings make for really great social media content. But more importantly, what we found was that 95% of the people on the calls plan to increase their digital advertising budget, particularly social advertising budget. 100% of them, all of them plan to use more video, because a lot of businesses are using video to connect with their clients because they can't do a whole lot else. They see people want to do Zoom. They want to watch their videos because what else can they do? 100% of them plan on using more social media and more frequently. I found it interesting that a lot of the grassroots effort marketing can't be done. It's really hard to go to coffee shops and gas stations and litter your flyers all over the place, because people aren't going anywhere. So a lot of grassroots effort marketing isn't going to be effective. And a lot of traditional marketing is going by the wayside. So digital marketing is really becoming more and more the forefront. And we're kind of not surprised to see that people are looking to a certain degree, double down on some of these digital offerings that they have at their fingertips. We talk about Zoom, as I said, it makes for great social media content. Being someone who works in business development, it's hard. It's hard to grow your business, to network, to be an ambassador of your brand when you can't really go anywhere and you can't do a lot. And someone who's dependent on me on a lot of events and in-person meetings. So what I did was I created a virtual book club and a virtual networking group. So I have a networking group that was meeting every Friday morning, and I had anywhere from 20 to 30 people on this call from all over Northeast Wisconsin. And then I also did a virtual book club where I had anywhere from 5 to 10 people, and we read one book every 2 weeks. And so what I had done was tried to create these initiatives and these ideas, and then I posted most of them on social media. And I found that I got a lot of engagement, a lot of direct messages saying, hey, that was really cool. I wish I would have thought of that, and had people reaching out to me to ask if they could do that. I've also been doing a lot of Zoom presentations, kind of like this. And so I would encourage other businesses out there who want to connect with new people and who have maybe something to share, whether you're in marketing or healthcare or leadership, or even the corporate space, is to coordinate something like this and use that content for social. In fact, we have a couple others we've done privately with clients, and we're going to use some of the video to slice it up and use for videos we can post on social media. So just because you do this doesn't mean you can't leverage the content for social media. And I think that's something a lot of people forget about. But it makes great content, and so far has yielded pretty good engagement for me and for Be Connected. Okay, we talk about now being best time to get creative, to try something new. And while QuickTrip is not a client of ours, they do social media very, very well. And in many cases, it's just very simple, but it's giving the people what they want. And two things that they do is, one, they celebrate their people. So their employees are really at the forefront of what they do, and their customers. And so a post on the left says, yes, we're open. Our retail coworkers are dedicated to our local communities and keeping people safe, and they're saying thank you. And sometimes a simple thank you goes a long way. And posts like that can yield a ton of engagement. On the right goes back to my earlier reference of testimonials. And so they have a gentleman by the name of Don who talks about at the end of every meeting, draw a smiley face, just cool, inspirational, uplifting messages that people can align with, and certainly messages that people need right now. And so if anyone's looking for some really simple, easy ideas, QuickTrip has this quirky sense of humor, and they really do social media very well. Here we have a credit union. So we talk about financial institutions being challenged. Most of them are closed, and they're operating through drive-through windows and sometimes by appointment only. But if you can't create a lot of new social media content, particularly in the community, like this business is very community oriented, what do? So you repurpose old content like this one here, and you talk about, while schools may be closed, the Verve team is still hard at work thinking about financial literacy programs. And then they talk further about how financial education can have a huge impact on our community. So again, community. They're celebrating their people and the people in the community. And again, great way to show community support, community advocacy. That theme of community and giving back and nonprofits and education performs really well on social media. Certainly better than the hard selling, which I talked about. Just imagine if they had a post that said free checking. You would say, yeah, so what? When what bank doesn't have that? Or what credit union doesn't have that? So think about themes like this that can be very helpful. On the right, we have Merv from Verve talking about practicing social distancing. So again, embracing that, encouraging other people to do the same. And then he says, we have hobbies we've been working on indulging with a little extra time. What are you doing? What's your hobbies? What are you indulging in right now? So asking open-ended questions can be great to help yield and cultivate more engagement back. And so again, you'd be surprised when you ask questions how many people will respond, because we all know everybody has something to say and everybody has an opinion. Which brings me to 313 Dodge, which is a phenomenal story from a small business located in Kaukauna. They can't be more than 2 years old and owned by an awesome couple, musician. And before COVID, they were doing just fine. They were basically a lounge / bar that sold some tapas / charcuterie boards and had a lot of live music. And so COVID hit, and what happened? They said, what do we do? What do we do? And they said, well, let's pump out craft cocktails. Let's do to-go craft cocktails. Let's put them in mason jars. We're going to rubber band the alcohol to the top, and we're going to get these cool boxes and do to-go charcuterie trays. So the people in this area must really love their small community businesses. And I don't just mean Kaukauna or Appleton. I know it's the same in Green Bay. But they were one of the first to really embrace this curbside pickup and delivery. And so what happened was they started posting right away, hey, come see us, to-go cocktails, to-go charcuterie boards. They sold out every week for the first 3 or 4 weeks, and they had to do a lottery. So literally one weekend, they sold over 550 to-go craft cocktails. And they put information out. They said, hey, if you're going to come, we take this really seriously. We don't want anyone to get sick. So here's where you park. Here's the instructions. When you come, here's how you can pay. And they made it really simple, easy, frictionless, which is a lot of what Amazon does. And they kept updating people. And my wife and I had to order our charcuterie boxes literally 6 days in advance. That's how popular they were. And all these other people who were buying from them were taking pictures and posting it on social, and we're helping them out. And it's just a great story that shows that if you can pivot and evolve a little bit, and you use the time to advance your business like this, you're going to come out of it much stronger. So they did things like, moving the setup of their restaurant. They put their cash register and their point of sale system right by the window so they could have walk-up craft cocktails to go, and they could make the whole process very simple and very easy for people. And this is a business that I encourage a lot of people to check out, because they're one of a handful who did it really, really well. And they take a lot of pride in what they do. So cool story, and great job. Moving on to another great client. This is a business I really love called Benshot. They make glassware, not eyeglasses, but glassware, like you can see on the right. And their signature product is they have a bullet that's kind of embedded in the glass. So they heat up the glass, they stretch it out, and they put these different objects in there, from golf balls to shotgun shells, fishing lures, et cetera, et cetera. So they shut down their business because of COVID. They were not essential, but they were able to reopen because they realigned their manufacturing process and their facility to make masks. And so by doing so, they bought all these kits, and they said, hey, attention all people who can sew, we have kits. We're going to hand them out. You can sew masks. You bring them back when you're done, and we're going to distribute them to people on the front line, healthcare workers. And so they did that. They had a lot of people take advantage of these kits, and they also made them in-house. And then they started making essential glasses, and they donated a portion of the proceeds back to people on the front line. Actually, it says all profits go to making protective glassware for people on the front line. So they evolved, they pivoted, and they have sold out many times over of these essential glasses. And again, another great story of what a small business was faced with a challenge. And they said, you know what, we're going to evolve. We're going to keep our people employed, keep them working if they so choose by making masks. And I just think that that's really neat that a business like this will come out of this pandemic probably a little stronger and be capable of pivoting again if something, a big issue or big crisis does happen in the future. And so again, great time to get creative and think about how you can evolve your business to make it even stronger. And what's interesting for them is they now have a whole new group of customers who have come into their ecosystem that are in this healthcare space that normally hadn't heard of them. And now they can market to them via email. They can pull those email addresses into Facebook and they can market and send ads to them there. And it opens up the door to a whole new opportunities. Here's another really cool story of a small business here in Appleton called Absolute Dance and their studio. They had to shut down. And like a lot of small family-owned businesses, negatively impacted quite a bit by this. And so it's like, what do we do? What can we do to connect with our clients? We can't risk going rogue or being invisible. So, let's adopt a puppy and let's bring our social media into our own home. Let's be vulnerable. And we're going to showcase our kids and our new puppy, Bruno. And say, hey, we're puppies growing by one. And if you don't like content with puppies, then I don't know if we could be friends, because puppy content is some of the best content you can put on social. And then in the middle, I mean, people get in these creative ruts and it's like, why don't we just tell people we miss them? We miss you. We love what we do. We're super passionate about dancing and we wish we could be back in the studio. And so a message like this, one step at a time, is a great way to just say, hey, we miss you guys. We appreciate you. We love our customers. We can't wait to get back. And when we do, we're going to make sure that we're taking all the precautions necessary to keep people safe. On the far right, they did a blooper reel. And these are two people who are very highly skilled, very highly trained, world-class dancers. And it's nice to see the human side of them to mess up every now and again, where they trip and fall on each other. And so it's cool just to be able to say, hey, we're human. We're not anything else. And we want to be able to connect with people. And the social media that they've been producing has been performing better than what it was pre-COVID. And so again, another example of how a business has come out of it a little bit stronger in terms of social. And hopefully we'll have a lot of people waiting to get back into the studio in the coming weeks or months. We've talked a lot about for-profit businesses, but what about the nonprofits? And this can be challenging at times because it seems like nonprofits are totally different, but they're not. Nonprofits are still after the same thing. They're after branding, they're after awareness, increasing number of people, participants in their programs, donors, and money is no different than business wanting to sell something. And so a couple things they can do that businesses can do too. A good one by Catalpa Health here on the left is they do, they have people make these inspirational cards that they give out, which you can see on the bottom right-hand corner of that particular post. They can't do that, so they created something called wishing walks, where they encouraged people to go outside in their driveway or sidewalk and use chalk to create an inspirational, uplifting message. And so they called it wishing walks. And they said, if you see one or you make one, share it below. And sure enough, they continue to do that on a regular basis, and had some pretty cool engagement. Because being a mental health organization, they're all about spreading positivity in the world. Big Brothers Big Sisters here in the Fox Cities wanted to bring the connection of their people, their staff, with their followers, which obviously they have a lot of interaction with people before COVID. How else do they do that? They had all the people say, hey, this is the letter or the phrase you need to hold up. Take a selfie of yourself, and we're going to put it all together into one post. And we're going to say, thank you. Thank you for this. Thank you for that. Also, businesses that are so used to being buttoned up with a suit and tie. I'm guessing not many people are wearing those these days, or dresses, looking fancy. So why not have a spirit week, which they did. And they said, hey, we're going to show everybody in their jammies, kind of in a relaxed outfit. And we're going to show people our work environment because, we're all human, and why not? And so there's a lot of things you can do with social, whether you're a for-profit or nonprofit. And it's nice to be able to show the lighter side and show people. Again, we connect with people, not brands in most cases. And so we want to see them. We want to see people smiling and having a good day and enjoying themselves. And so smiling faces and people, some of the best types of content you can post. Okay, so we're through a lot of the examples of businesses. We're going to wrap up here quickly with a few tactics that you can implement. And one of them is just doing a quick audit of your page to make sure that your address, your phone number, and that your hours of operation are up to date. I've had several instances where with local businesses I've either went to that weren't open and their Facebook page said they were, or their Google page says they were, or I've called to get takeout only to find that they weren't doing delivery. And so they lost out on business because I went somewhere else. And maybe, if you were like me and you're trying to order Chinese on a Sunday, you said, hey, I just found a new Chinese place that I really like. That's my new favorite. And you lose out on more potential business. So make sure that you're updated. People will forgive you for not being open during these times, but they might not forgive you if they show up to your restaurant or your place of business and you're closed and they wasted 15, 20 minutes of their day. This is user-generated content, or also known as UGC. So if you have businesses, or have content rather, where people have shared your business or posted something and they tagged you, reshare it. This is a business I own here called The Social Station, operates in Appleton. And I used a tool called Regram, which is a third-party app you can download for your smartphone. And when someone tags your business on a platform like Instagram, where unfortunately you cannot reshare something, you can use that tool to reshare a post. And when you do, you'll see this little black bar I have circled in red that says or shows who originally posted that content. User-generated content, as I mentioned, is great because it's very believable. And when you see dozens of people posting about your brand, it gives you this brand equity, gives you this reassurance or this affirmation that says, wow, that is fun. That does look cool. People are doing it. I need to do it. And then QuickTrip uses user-generated content to show testimonials and thank you notes from their customers and clients. And it does really, really well. Giveaways. Giveaways are great right now. It's not something that I'd encourage people of doing a lot of over the last couple of years, because Facebook saw giveaways as a way of tricking people into engagement. And so when you did a giveaway, you weren't likely to get a ton of engagement or visibility. But giveaways are great now because it's a great opportunity to give something to someone who might need it, who it might put a smile on their face. And now more than ever, people are on their phone more, they're on social media more, and it could be a great opportunity to get someone in your door, to get or expose someone new to your business and your organization. And so doing a giveaway periodically is really great. If you overdo it, it does lose its novelty, but if you do it once a quarter, a couple times a year, giveaways can perform pretty well. And they don't perform well when it's something like, hey, here's a free ink pen and a koozie. But if you have something that's like, hey, here's a couple of koozies and a t-shirt, or here's a $25 gift card, that's when you start to get people's attention. And it's unfortunate that it takes that much, but I would consider businesses who are looking to mix it up and try something new to do a giveaway. Something I haven't talked about much today is supporting your talent acquisition efforts. And this can be very easy. There are a lot of businesses that are going to be coming out of this that are going to need to hire folks. And so focusing on things like product pride, average employee tenure goes a long way in showcasing that you're a great place to work. But again, highlighting people, highlighting the process, the facility, taking pride in what you do can be great. And I know we're about coming up on time here, so I'm gonna wrap it up. Another way to get people into your social media ecosystem right now, if you're struggling to grow your platform, is making sure that you have all of these links in your email signature. So if you're anything like me and you send and receive, probably 100 emails a day or so, it's important that you have it because people do click it. I click it. I know a lot of other people that do. And so it's just one easier way for people to get to your business to get to connect with you. And it's okay to have a real big email signature with 6 links in it. Certainly a lot of opportunity there. One of the last ones here we'll share is stories. So stories, this is particular to Instagram, but stories are also available on Facebook and allegedly will be coming to the LinkedIn platform here in the immediate future. But stories are great because according to Hootsuite, fewer businesses are using it than are using the newsfeed to post. So what that means basically is that there's less inventory or competition in that horizontal stories feed than there is in the vertical news feed. So if you use stories, it's likely that more people will see your content. Now that's going to grow. Certainly you can now run ads as a story as well, but it's a different format. It's easy to click that little story button there and post a 10-second video to your newsfeed, or to post it to your newsfeed and stories. So I encourage people to use it. Eventually we'll see more and more people using it, and it won't be as effective, but right now stories are highly effective for businesses on both Instagram and Facebook. One of the last things I'll share is gift cards. Facebook has this tab available in certain countries right now, and it's in beta, but it will eventually be available to everybody in the US. And because of the pandemic, they decided to make a gift card tab, meaning that if you're a local business to your area, and Facebook knows where you are, and you want to support small businesses, whether it be a salon, a studio, whoever, you'll be able to buy gift cards right through Facebook. And I have reason to believe that may be part of the reason their stock price is skyrocketing right now. But it's going to be an opportunity for you to continue to connect with the brands, but give the gift of the brand. So there'll be some things you'll have to do to set up, whether you want to do it directly on their platform or take people to your website. But when this does become available, I would highly encourage businesses who have that capability or do sell gift cards to get on this, because when you're an early adapter with social media, a lot of people are going to flock to it and check it out, whether they buy or not. And so before all the competition hits and they've got hundreds or thousands of businesses to filter through, if you're an early adapter and you get on there, you are likely to see sales from this. And I'm assuming it's going to be all over the media and all over the news once it is. So I'm excited about that one. Something I had in here was podcasting, but we're going to buzz through that from a time perspective, and we're going to get to toward the end here. The last thing I wanted to mention was Facebook is also rolling out some new features. One of them is called Messenger Rooms. This is designed to compete with Zoom. So once you have a Messenger Room available, you can invite people even if they don't have a Facebook account, which is great. And so that, again, a great way for them to get more people into their ecosystem. And they also have filters capabilities, so you can make people look goofy, or you can make yourself look goofy with ears and sunglasses. So Zoom won't be the only one, and Google won't be the only ones with this cool technology. You can also pair this with events. So something I'm really excited about in a post-COVID-19 world is that if you're a musician or an artist, like pictured here with Paint Night with Amy, and you wanted to do a private show and you wanted to charge $5 access, or you were the Meyer Theater, you can do that. And people who pay get access to this live video. And it's a great opportunity for small businesses or independent people like that to monetize their talents and their capabilities. And so I'm just really excited about some of the new things coming in a post-COVID-19 world with Facebook. And again, with this type of stuff, you want to be an early adapter. And I think that is where you will find the success. Okay, so we're wrapping it all up. And certainly as we do, I get a nice little interruption from my daughter. But I just want to say thank you so much for joining me today. Honored that you take an hour out of your day to jump on the call here. And I'm happy to connect with anyone and share this with people who want the slide deck or people who want that strategy template. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions anybody has, and whatever it is, feel free to throw it out there.
So before we get to that, I just want to thank you, Chris, and thank everybody. I know we ran a little late, so if people have to jump off, we understand. There is one question in the Comments, does Facebook track engagements for your stories?
Yes, you can get some information in your Insights tab, but it is quite limited. In some cases, having a tool like a Hootsuite or a Sprout Social, which are kind of the same thing, Sprout is just more like a Salesforce version, will give you some analytics, but it's pretty limited when it comes to tracking stories.
Good. Thank you. Chris, if you want to share the slides with me and then your contact information and that sheet you had in there, I will pass it out to everybody.
Awesome. Is that all we have for questions?
That was it.
Wow, a lively
You
bunch.
covered everything. All right. So I want to thank everybody for attending, and we will see you soon. Thank you. Thanks, Chris.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.